Assalamu alaikum class. After the introduction of writer's personality, her short biography, I'm sharing with you her art of characterization. No doubt her art of characterization is superb and amazing. Every character has its own value. Her art of characterization shows her artistic qualities, keen observation, and her pen power. First of all, I would like to throw on light on the character of Seeth, the protagonist. The character of Seth is having central position in the story. As I have already thrown light on her character in my previous video, after the murder of Seth's daughter, Beloved, we can see many conflicts and complexities in her personality. She was living in her past. It was very difficult for her to forget the bad memories of past and brutality of school teacher and his nephew. She was violated emotionally, physically, and mentally. In sketching the character of Seeth, Toni Morrison has displayed a remarkable excellence. Seeth is one of the central characters of Morrison's novel Beloved. She is a black woman and previous slave who was orphaned by the death of her slave parents. She has bitter experience of brutal slavery. She is the wife of Hell, who has disappeared before the start of the novel. She is a mother of burglar Howard and Denver. These are the names of her children. Beloved was also her daughter, which was murdered in her childhood. Seeth, a former slave who escaped from Sweet Home many years before the story begins, but cannot escape her past. She is independent and proud and believes the best part of herself is her children. She has been abused as a slave for most of her life, especially by the school teacher who used her to teach his nephew animalistic qualities of African Americans. Class story is playing in flashback. Seeth is remembering the past events, the past happenings, and she was unable to forget all these happenings. The next character is Denver, isolated from the community. Denver is Seeth's youngest child. She is quiet and independent, but also craves attention and love from Seeth and Beloved. She loves to hear Seeth tell her about her miraculous birth. Toward the end of the novel, she gathers enough courage to venture outside of 124. 124 is the name of the house where they lived by herself and get help for Seeth. As the novel ends, she seems to have a potentially promising future and to have been saved from the past that controlled Seeth's life. As far as the birth of Denver is concerned, Seeth's condition was very bad after leaving the Sweet Home. She was rescued by a white lady whose name was also Denver, and Seeth gave this name to her daughter Denver. Denver was born after the escape from the Sweet Home. I'm sharing with you the lines of Denver from text. In these lines, she asked Baldy, why did they leave Sweet Home? Class, actually, Sweet Home was a place where they lived as slaves. There is also irony in the name of this house. It was sweet. Actually, it was not a home and it was actually not sweet. Denver was isolated and she was very frightened of being killed by her mother like Beloved. In the end, Denver collected the people in the community to get rid of Beloved when she was disturbing them. Now I'm going to read these lines. How come everybody run off from Sweet Home? Can't stop talking about it. Look, like if it was so sweet, you would have stayed. All day laughed. True, Denver tried. See, it was not sweet, and it sure wasn't home. He shook his head. But it's where we were, said Seeth. All together, come back whether we want it or not. The next character is Baby Sex, the mother-in-law of Seth and mother of Hell, Seth's husband. Baby Sex was a speaker. Her speeches were based on motivation, morality, and religion. She had 8 children from 6 men, but she was allowed to keep one. Hell. Class. Baby Sex is Hell's mother, Seth's mother-in-law, and Denver's grandmother. Hell buys her freedom before the events of the novel and after establishing a life at 124 in Cincinnati. She becomes something of a preacher or holy person in the surrounding community, holding gatherings in the clearing in the forest. But after Seth kills her child, Baby Sex becomes exhausted and withdrawn, caring only about seeing bits of color, and slowly dies. Class, I'm sharing with you a short clip of Baby Sex. I'm going to show you how she had preached in her society and community. I hope you will enjoy it.
Here in this place, we are flesh, flesh that weeps, laughs, dances barefoot in the grass. Love your flesh. Love it hard. Yonder, they do not love our flesh. Oh, my people, they do not love your hands. Those.
Class, here Baby Sex is delivering speech to black community. She's saying love yourself first and nobody's going to love you. Recognize your own worth and value. She is spreading the message of self-love, self-importance, justice, and brotherhood, and a society without any discriminations. Class, as King Luther says also in his speech, I would like to live in a society with my children, where my children can live without any discrimination of racism and can live with all people like brothers and sisters. As you can read this page for Baby Sex. Now I am reading Hell's, Seth's husband. She goes mad after witnessing the nephew of the school teacher violating Seth and disappears the night that Seth and others were supposed to escape into freedom. Seth eventually leaves without him, always wondering what had happened to him and whether he was still alive. Plus, the rape of his wife Seth had left very shocking and bad effects on the mentality of Hell. He was too shocked to bear the tragedy of his wife, and he remained disappeared in the novel. Class, now next character, Howard and Buckler, Seth's son. Class, these are the names of Seth's sons before the start of the story, driven off by the ghost of their sister that haunted 124. Lady Jones, a light-skinned black woman with blonde hair who is convinced that everyone hates her because she is mixed. She teaches many underprivileged children. Stampede, an agent of Underground Railroad who helped Seth to freedom and saved Danner from facing the same fate as her sister, Beloved. A sacrifice he made during his own escape from slavery makes him believe that his moral debts were paid off for the rest of his life, which is why he chooses the name Stampede. He helps out everyone in the town, and there is nowhere he is not welcome. Stampede is angered by the fact that no one offers to help see Denver Poldy and realizes that he might still owe something to the resident of 124. He was very close to baby Suggs before her death and regrets being so harsh to her for her choices and realizes he should have been helping her and not accusing her. Class next are Mr. and Miss Portwin, who helped baby Suggs find work and gave her a home when she arrived in Cincinnati. They were also at the head of campaign to earn seat for freedom when she was taken to jail. Next is Amy Denver. I have discussed this character before on the birth of Denver, and that was lady who helped Sid in the time of difficulty, in the time of delivering the baby. A young white girl Sid meets during her escape to the north. She helps Sid when she finds her ill and tells Sid that whip marks on her back resemble a tree. She also helps Sid deliver her baby, whom Sid then named Denver after her. Paul A. Paul F. Sixo, other slaves at Sweet Home. Ella worked the Underground Railroad with Stampede. Next, Mr. and Mrs. Garner, the owner of Sweet Home until the death of Mr. Garner. When the school teacher took over, they treated the slaves better than the school teacher. Next, Mr. and Mrs. Boughton. I have discussed this character before. School teacher, a very cruel man. The man that took over Sweet Home following the death of Mr. Garner. He is cold, heartless, and extremely racist. He said Mr. Garner had been too soft on his slaves and treated them more like men than the animals they were. It means he considered the slaves as animals. You can say worse than animals. The school teacher had strict rules and punishment and uses the slaves' scientific studies, including asking questions, measuring them, and teaching his pupils about the animalistic qualities of his slaves. Class, you can see the brutality in the character of school teacher. Paul D. and other former slaves from Sweet Home, who become Sith lovers upon arriving at 124. He is constantly repressing memories of the brutality he suffered at Sweet Home, but at the same time helping other people their heart and confide in him. He is convinced that the only way to survive is not to be too attached to anything. As soon as he arrived, he drove the ghost of 124, and both Denver and Beloved are extremely jealous of him. Being with Seth allows Paul D to come to terms with what had happened in his life, but he continues to doubt his manhood and value as a person. Class, in the end, I'm sharing a clip from
Alec bought baby Suggs his freedom, but slavery done already busted her legs, busted her back, hands, everything. She come here, she ain't had nothing left to make no living with, besides her heart. Baby Suggs used to preach right here.
Let the children come. Let your mothers hear you laugh. Let the grown men come. Let your wives and your children see you dance. queen.